So I'm Dr. Ellen Kenner, and I want to give you 5 tips today to help you get out of the burnout pit. And the first one is to value yourself. Number one is truly value yourself. It is your life. Sometimes people think this isn't, my life. It's really, I feel like I'm living in the shadows of my partner, my husband, my wife, or I feel like I have to have the life my parents want, or everybody's sucking so much life out of me. It is your life. It's not your boss's life. And if you're feeling burnt out, that is such a red flag. That is a signal that your subconscious is sending you, saying, pay attention. I'm hurting. I'm burnt out. I don't want to get out of bed this morning. I don't want to go into work. I don't want to face coworkers. I don't want to see my family members. I certainly don't want to go to my college reunion and meet people who are doing well. I just feel like I'm fried. I don't want to go anyplace. If you're feeling like you are in the burnout pit, I'm going to give you one exercise that maybe will help you a bit. The goal is to focus on your strengths. When you're burning out, most people say, what's the use? Why bother? Who cares? I'm a failure. I screw up everything, or nobody likes me, and I'll never get anywhere, and I don't know how I'll ever even get out of bed. If you keep doing that every day, just churning that type of self-criticism and self-doubt, you're going to feel depressed and you're going to remain there. You're going to be training your mind to remain there. Instead, you want to give yourself permission to focus on your strengths. And you say, yeah, what strengths? Think again. You want to think of what good choices have I made over my life? When have I truly been in a better place than I am now, out of this burnout pit? What have people said about me, that the strengths that I have? The exercise that I'm going to give you is one that I was given when I was in grad school, and I was in training to work with children, and I'm a clinical psychologist, and the exercise was, go home tonight and write down 50 things you like or love about yourself. And it's like 50 things, you've got to be kidding me. And I went home and I started writing them down. They were small at the beginning. You start slowly, feel a little embarrassed doing this exercise. It feels selfish. And yes, it is. You're focusing on yourself, and that's good. But I wrote down things like, I enjoy going to the farm to get fresh corn. I like taking a bike ride in the early morning when I have the time to do that. And I like things like, at the time I was manicuring my nails. I haven't done that in a while. Maybe I'll do that again. And they were small things that didn't seem that important. But after a while, I started writing things like, I love learning. I love that I take care of my health. Not all the time. There are periods when I'm a slacker, but I usually can pick myself back up. I love that. I love to read. And I started to name things. I love that I try to be honest with myself. I mean, we say we're honest with ourselves, and then we can slide off there too. But I try to be. I make a big effort to do that. So you could try doing that. Write down 50 things. It doesn't have to be 50. It could be 5 things you love about yourself or like about yourself, or that people have said are your strengths. And that puts you in a different mindset. You start to burn the burnout. You want to get rid of it, burn it off, and get some of that sunshine back into your life. The second point is to plan purposefully. Things are just not going to happen. If you just are not taking any action, that's not helping. When I say plan purposefully, it could be to plan to see a good cognitive therapist. It could be any therapist, but I like cognitive therapists because they teach you how to think clearly. They give you thinking skills. Other therapists do too, but I'm very familiar with cognitive therapy. And you want to plan, what do I love to do? Notice the focus is on, what do I want in life? What do I love to do? You're focused on yourself. You're not trying to hurt anybody else. You're not trying to do it at the expense of anybody else. You're planning your life purposefully, and you want to integrate it with the other areas in your life, with your friends, with maybe your hobbies and interests. Maybe you don't have time for them at certain points in your life. That's okay, but you still want to have them in the background and be able to bring them in. with um, your career, obviously, with a romantic partner, with children. If you have children, you want to not let that time go by where you're not enjoying them, where you're not in. I know sometimes you can burn out as a parent there too, but you want to be able to enjoy that, look back at their childhood someday and say, I enjoyed their childhood. Yeah, there were rough spots, but I overall enjoyed it. The third point I want to say is to take small steps towards your goal. Take bite-sized pieces, and you've probably heard this advice many times. Um, but when you take those pieces, like when I was getting into graduate school, I asked my husband to work with me on this, and every day at the end of the day, in a loving, lovingly supportive voice, he would say to me, tell me what you've done today to get into grad school. And that helped keep the momentum up. I would take one small step every day, whether it was getting the grades, my transcripts, or getting recommendations. And it just felt so good. I could feel like I was making momentum towards a goal. And I didn't judge my progress from the end point, getting into grad school. I judged it from my starting point. And that's another wonderful skill. You always judge your progress. Progress means you're moving forward. Um, and so you judge it from your starting point. If this is your starting point, you're moving forward. And then you can see every day, okay, I've got my transcripts, I've got my recommendations, I feel like I'm making progress, rather than looking at it from the end point. The fourth point I want to give you is to build resilience. There are resilient skills, things you can say to yourself where you get that I can do it spirit. And if you have done what I mentioned earlier, focused on your strengths, think of the times when you have been able to overcome difficult periods in your life, or difficult situations, or dealt okay with difficult people. You want to know what you did right, and you can build on those skills. I know when I tried to get into grad school, I was rejected the first year, but I had given myself those 5 years to get in, because it was a very difficult program to get into. And and I called up admissions and spoke with market admissions and said, what was I missing? And he told me that I got 0 on clinical experience, and I didn't know that I needed clinical experience. So he told me I did really well scored really well on all the other factors or dimensions that they look at: your grades, your recommendations, your graduate record exams. But 0 is not good. That doesn't help. So I went out and I was able to get. I spent a year as a volunteer in a psychiatric hospital in Rhode Island, and I gained enormous experience. I was honored to be able to sit in on individual sessions, and that following year I got into grad school, and my daughter can still remember the day that I just got the interview. We were jumping up and down, cheering. I was like picking her up. She was so young at the time, but we were dancing in the kitchen. I was just so happy. I hugged her and swung around. So if you build that resilience, even if you get a rejection, you just don't give up. You go after your goals. And if it's changing career and getting out of burnout, you want to build up that resilience. And the last point I want to make is to learn how to, in a playful way, read your own mind. I don't mean it's playful, but you want to, and I don't mean anything mystical. I mean, learn how your own mind works. It's your mind for life, and you want to know how to make it a comfortable place to live in. You want to know what you want to be able to introspect. So if you're burnt out, you want to be able to ask yourself introspective questions, such as, what's going through my mind right now? What am I feeling? If my feeling could speak, what would it say? Well, I'm bummed out. Well, if my feeling could speak, it's I'm never going to go anyplace. Okay, you got one of those real negative criticism things, and I don't think I like this career. Okay, keep writing on paper or typing on the computer if you want, and ask yourself. You can ask questions such as, am I being too perfectionistic on the job? Am I having difficulty with the people on the job? You want to specifically identify what where the core of the burnout is coming from, so you can address it, you can change it, you can make a plan to either maybe segue into a different um, department in your business, or change jobs completely, or work with different people if that's possible, or learn better communication skills if you don't have them, so you're not passive aggressive, and um, you are not angry, you don't have anger management problems, that you can assertively express yourself in a way that holds your own dignity. And those are my 5 steps. Value yourself, plan purposefully to enjoy your life, um, take small steps towards your goal, build resilience, and learn to introspect. I'm Dr. Ellen Kenner again, and I have a radio show, The Rational Basis of Happiness, and I've written a book on romance with my co-author, Dr. Edwin A. Locke, who is actually world-renowned for goal-setting theory. I had to study his theory when I took my graduate record exams. So we've written a very comprehensive book on romance, and we titled it brazenly The Selfish Path to Romance, because you never want to run away from the self-valuing, self-respecting, self-nurturing. And that underlies everything that we do. And if you're in burnout, it could be that you've betrayed yourself. And we don't mean selfish in the sense of the mean, rotten, narcissistic, my way or the highway person. We mean self-esteem, self-nurturing, self-valuing. And that's what I hope you give yourself. And I wish you the best if you are struggling with burnout, that you can get out of it much sooner than later and have those skills going forward, so that you're more resistant to burnout in the future.